because people have, we have Hindus all over India, in regions, in castes, in languages, and to bring them all together under the slogan of Hindutva is hard work, and it's got nothing to do with vote bank. Of course, if the Hindus unite, then there is no chance for anybody else, but that is not an issue just now because Hindus do not vote as an entire bloc.
It's not about the way they vote. And I'm going to bring in the Ram temple here.
So you said vote
No,
bank,
no,
that's right.
I'll tell you why. Because it was during the agitation for a Ram temple, in the build-up to 1990, the Rath Yatra and then the demolition that took place in 1992, that I first heard the slogan, "Jo Hindu hit ki baat karega, wahi desh pe raj karega." Are you telling me that was not a form of vote bank politics? That you are not playing vote bank politics?
That is not the slogan of the leaders of the movement. It may have been slogan of people who are here. When you collect a big mob, people have different ways of expressing themselves. And therefore, to say that that is the defining slogan of the Hindutva is wrong. It shows a deep prejudice in your mind.
Asauddin Owaisi, your party also has made slogans. Your brother, I know you like to believe that you all are two distinct individuals, but you all belong to the same party, and he speaks of Islam khatre mein hai. Aren't those slogans also in a sense vitiating the atmosphere? Aren't those slogans also designed to cater to a particular vote bank?
राजीव, इस्लाम कभी खतरे में था ना रहेगा इंशाअल्लाह ताला. Mr. Swami talks about majoritarian. See, this country cannot be run on majoritarian or a certain group. This country has to be run on the basis of constitution. This country has to follow the principles of rule of law. This country can be successful if it allows freedom of religion, if it allows everyone to grow equally. Now, that is how this country should be run. But unfortunately, what has happened is that you have a prime minister who is a complete narcissist and he believes in anarchism. Now, take the example of yesterday. Yesterday, the government issued a half-page advertisement saying about it's a law day, talking about Article 51A. Mr. Swami knows what Article 51A is. Now, why can't the government issue an advertisement talking about fundamental duties, fundamental rights? Now, rights are more important than duties, and even in that advertisement 51AF, there is a 51AF says, preserve the composite culture of India. His party had destroyed the Babri Masjid, which was the greatest example of Sharqi culture. 51A talks about a scientific temperament. You have a prime minister who says that 4,000 years ago, India had invented plastic surgery. So where is the scientific temperament? Where is the composite culture? So an authoritarian government wants to promote homogeneity at the cost of heterogeneity. This is what they're doing.
Sir, I asked you a question on Islam khatre mein hai. You went in the direction of Narendra Modi and the Prime Minister. We can come to that issue later. But I want to understand whether the very nature of India is such that vote bank politics of the kind that we see is inevitable. You represent a constituency in Hyderabad.
Rajdeep, I have heard this question from you 100 times. No, I know what you're going to ask. Let me answer it.
No, Rajdeep. You represent a constituency with a large Muslim population. Therefore, consciously, you, a bar at law, a distinguished bar at law from Lincoln's Inn, are forced to cater to the baser instincts of that constituency by somehow claiming that there is this fear of majoritarianism. That is how you run your politics.
Rajdeep, Pandit Nehru had said that the greatest threat to this country is from majoritarian communalism. Now, if Nehru is right or wrong, I leave it to you and to Mr. Swami. The second point is that if what you say is right, then why are the numbers of Muslim MPs are coming down? Why isn't there a single Muslim MP in Lok Sabha from BJP getting elected? Now, this is a question which everyone should answer. If you believe in the polarity and diversity and what your question is to me, this question has to be asked to other people. Fine, I am the most dishonest and the most bad person in India. That is an honor to me. But what about these people who claim to be paragon of virtues and who believe in secularism or communalism? Where are the numbers?
Dr. Swami, do you believe in the notion of diversity and composite culture? Do you accept that this great land where Ustad Bismillah Khan can live in Varanasi and his audience will include Muslim weavers and Hindu pandits, and they will both rejoice in the playing of the Shehnai by an Ustad Bismillah Khan? Is that your notion of a composite culture and a diverse India or not? Or will you pigeonhole the Muslim today as someone as who once told me from your own party not too long ago कि यार आज का मुसलमान जो होता है वो तो या शायर होता है या आतंकवादी होता है? Is this the kind of definition of a composite culture, a diverse society that your party wants to put before the...
Well, since you didn't name him, I think you're fibbing.
I'm not. I'm not.
All right. Now, first of all, I'll begin with he and I are well friendly to each other, if not friends.
Yes. Which is the way you should be. I sometimes think you're more friendly to Asauddin Owaisi than you are to the finance minister of this country. But that's another question for another day.
But I am of the opinion if Mr. Swami was the finance minister, this sort of demonetization would not have happened.
But more seriously, do you believe in the notion of composite culture and diversity and a multi-faith dialogue?
I'll begin by his first answer, where he quoted sections of the Constitution. And he said we are bound by rule of law, which of course emanates from the Constitution. Let me tell him that Article 44 of the Constitution says there should be a uniform civil code in the country. He doesn't agree with that. Article 48 says there should be a ban on cow slaughter. He doesn't agree with that. Article 351 says that the Hindi official language should take vocabulary only from Sanskrit. I'm sure he doesn't agree with that. So don't be like the devil quoting the scriptures, some parts of the Constitution and not some other parts of the Constitution. First, as far as diversity and so on and so forth, first of all, I'd like to say the Hindu civilization has a tremendous record of looking after minorities who come here for refuge. When the Parsis came, we looked after them, and they were so happy with the way they were treated that when the British offered them minority status and reservations, they said, Hindus have looked after us for 1,000 years, we don't want you, you go. That was the stand taken by the Parsis. The Jews persecuted everywhere in the world. Only place where they got the local population to build mosques, synagogues, one in Cochin and the other in Bombay, was India. And when Israel was formed, the first resolution that was passed after adopting the Constitution was to say, thank you India, the only country where the Jews were not persecuted. The same thing was with Syrian Jews, Assyrian Christians, and even those Arab Muslims who came to Kerala as traders. We, in fact, when they wanted to settle down, we allowed them to marry into our society, and we call them Mapilai, which means son-in-law, and which in English is called Mopla. So that was the record. It was the violent Islam which disrupted our society. Now, when partition was created by the British House of Parliament, the Common House of Commons, they adopted a bill. Because there was no Pakistan, they had to create a Pakistan. So they created what they said was two nations, one a Muslim-governed Pakistan and a Hindu-governed India. And the Hindus decided, we will not ask the Muslims to leave. Those who want to live here, they are welcome to live. But we must live as a united society. And the society should find commonality with each other. There is much commonality between Hindus and Muslims. According to DNA studies, his DNA and my DNA is the same. That means his ancestors and my ancestors are the same. But he's not willing to accept that.
No, but hold on. In the process, yeah, I'll get you to respond. But in the process of your, the logic of a lot of what you're saying should also mean the last thing that you need to become is a Hindu Pakistan, or B, because you believe there was a violent Islam that existed 300, 400 years ago, we are now going to take away revenge for what happened in 1526, in 2016. I mean, you want us to go back in time rather than us to move forward. Why should I become a Hindu Pakistan? I am a country that wants to be governed by a constitutional republic.
Listen, I never said any of these things. You're putting it in my mouth, but I think
You use the word violent Islam. You use the word violent
I
Islam.
will tell you, when it comes to question of credentials, my wife is a Parsi, my daughter-in-law is married to Muslim, I have Jewish brother-in-laws, I have a Christian sister-in-laws, I have every religion, and none of them find me communal. It's only you who is going on hammering this point. But let me say this, I am definitely for accommodation. In Sanskrit there's a word called Shastra. We believe in converting people by arguing. If you lose a debate, you convert to that person.
Not by violence.
Not by violence.
Okay.
That Shankaracharya made it very clear.
So you object to the demolition of the Babri Masjid on December 6, 1992? Do you object to the demolition of the Babri Masjid, a place of worship, on December 6, 1992? Yes or no?
I think you have been too much effective at Jethmalani and start cross-examining me for nothing.
I actually was a lawyer before you were.
Exactly. I think you have forgotten your law. You first let me make my statement. I am only saying this, that once we agreed to partition, we had decided to be a continuing civilization. That is there in the Constituent Assembly debates when Sanskrit was almost made the compulsory official language, then changed to Hindi with Sanskrit vocabulary. When the ban on cow slaughter was debated in the Constituent Assembly and decided why it should be there. We have not said ban on eating of pork, for example. There's nothing pro or supportive of any Muslim practice in the Indian Constitution. But there are large amount of support for the Hindu, because the mainstream of our culture is Hindu, in which many others have contributed. But we want everyone to realize we are a continuing Hindu civilization. We are not a theocratic state. Never in the history of Hindu kingdoms has ever it been a theocratic state, except during the time of Ashoka. We were always secular till the Muslims came. Of course, they became theocratic. What practices they follow in Islamic majority countries, I don't have to tell you. You can't celebrate Diwali in Saudi Arabia, even though we have 2 million Indian workers there who are Hindus. So,
okay, sir,
therefore, please don't use words which are pejorative.
Okay.
Today, you tell me what I believe in, I'll tell you.
Okay.
I believe that Hindu Muslims are as much a part of this society and this land because their ancestors were Hindus.
Okay. I don't suddenly want India to ever become Saudi Arabia. But that's another question for another day. You need to respond though to the fact that you are selectively using the constitution. Dr. Swami has cited provisions, directive principles, uniform civil code,
let me answer. Don't waste your time.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Swami, you are very well versed in the law. And when your name is uttered, people fear that you'll go and file a case against them. Now, let me remind you that the fundamental rights in our constitution are above directive principles. That you agree?
Agree.
Fine. Now, second, you talk about Article 44 and the cow slaughter. Now, cow slaughter provision was incorporated. The last reading of Constituent Assembly debates, which I have read in the Parliament Library, is not because of Hindu sentiment. It was on economic ground. Third point, on Article 44, I want to know from Mr. Swami, what is the definition of uniform civil code or common civil code? Does Mr. Swami believes in Mitakshara or the Dayabhaga school of thought? Thirdly, let me also remind him that in our country, the tribals follow polygamy and polyandry. The 2011 census clearly says that there are 42,34,294 Hindu Muslim women who are either in a bigamous marriage or have married outside the faith. Now, there are so many things in the directive principles. Why don't we impose a ban on alcohol? We know people are dying. Why don't you do it? But BJP and Sangh Parivar are stuck up with 44 and cow slaughter. Other directive principles are completely gone. So as of now, the country does not know the definition of what is a uniform civil code, what is a civil code, and let me remind you that Special Marriage Act applies only to Hindus. That if a Hindu marriage uses Special Marriage Act, then the severity for the family connections are not gone. But in a non-Hindu marries, then it is gone. Now, why Special Marriages Act should be there? Article 371, let me, Nagaland and Mizoram, can Mr. Swami say now that we'll take away the cultural rights of Nagas and Mizos? We cannot impose IPC over there. Mr. Swami, can you impose Indian Penal Code in Kashmir? Can you do it? You are in power for 2.5 years. You have done nothing about 370. Forget about 370. You're not even able to take back Pandits to Kashmir. Forget about those Kashmiris. Kashmir was burning for 4 years. So all this talk of uniform civil code and cow slaughter, why don't you impose cow slaughter in or beef ban in Goa where you're in power? So this is nothing but election time, Babri Masjid, cow, uniform civil code. After election, there is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. And what Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas means that no one of you should have a 500,000 rupee note. Everyone should become a beggar. So the Prime Minister says, stand up, start up, queue up, and if you die in a queue, you're a nationalist. If you're alive, we'll think about what is the definition from you.
Assaduddin Owaisi, on that, just though, there is let's be honest, there is a trust deficit. There exists a trust deficit between, unfortunately...
Rajdeep, no, please, Rajdeep, I beg you. Now he talked about violent Islam. मैं खर्जा रखता नहीं हूँ. What about Shashank? King Shashank destroyed thousands of Buddhist stupas and put a reward of 100 gold coins on a Buddhist. Is the Sangh Parivar willing to apologize to Buddhists? Where this religion started over here is no more over here. And this, Mr. Swami, I have not chosen a constitutional monarchy. I have chosen democratic, secular Republic of India, and secularism is the ethos of this country according to Bombay judgment. And tomorrow, if Mr. Swami allows me, if I do excavation at his house at East Nizamuddin, mark my words, I will find remnants of Rahimuddin Khane Khana.
I will come back to that. I'll come back, Dr. Sai. I'll let you respond. But I just want to understand, on Uniform Civil Code, as I said, there is a trust deficit. When you have a trust deficit, you need to take certain gestures that bridge that deficit. Look at triple talaq, for example. 20 countries across the world, including Islamic countries, Bangladesh and Pakistan, have banned triple talaq. But when it comes to Assaduddin Owaisi and when it comes to Muslim clerics, you'll go to the All India Muslim Personal Law Board. You will not even accept...
No, Rajdeep, you don't do your homework properly.
No, I have done it.
Let me tell you. I'll tell you what. Read the Muslim Marriage Act of 1960s of Pakistan. At the cost of being a Pakistani, I'm used to it. You can call me if you want. Now, in that act, it clearly says triple talaq is allowed. I'm telling you, this government has filed a petition in the Supreme Court naming so many Islamic countries. You see, Islam does not allow monarchy, so they are Muslim countries. Listen to me.
Why should in the 21st century gender justice not take precedence
Rajdeep,
over
why
the
is
Sharia?
it? I'll tell you why. Let us talk on the basis of data. Let us talk on the basis of 2011 census. Let us talk on the basis of what this Bharatiya Muslim Mahila Mandal, which is very close to Sangh Parivar, their own data says that out of 1,700 odd or 17,000 surveyed, only 2 women were given talaq on the phone, 1 through SMS and 5 through email. What are you talking about? And what is the divorce rate of Muslims? Come on, let us debate that. The problem is Mr. Modi wants to make triple talaq an issue for Uttar Pradesh. Now and suddenly this love for Muslim women has come. If that is the case, what about Ishrat Jahan? What about Zakia Jafri? What about Najib's mother? No, Rajdeep, come on. We have to ask this question.
I am saying to overcome a yawning trust deficit.
Rajdeep, I will tell you, you talk about gender justice.
Yes.
Muslim Personal Law Board has told various Uttar Pradesh governments, please give Muslim daughters share in her father's agricultural land. Let Mr. Modi go to Uttar Pradesh and say that. Let Mr. Modi go and say in Goa that if a Hindu woman gives birth to a child by age of 25, her husband can marry second time. By 30, if she cannot give a birth to a boy, the man can marry second time. Why is Mr. Modi so selective about it?
Okay, let me come to you. Since I maintain there is a trust deficit, both at the political level and sadly sometimes even seen on the street, if triple talaq is to become the subject of a dialogue and a possible reach out from the Muslim community towards those who believe that gender justice must prevail over the Shariat in such matters, personal law matters, what gesture is going to be made from the majority community? At the end of the day, Mr. Owaisi is right. You don't want Muslim political representation. There is not a single Muslim MP today from Uttar Pradesh, apart from Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi, who comes to the Rajya Sabha. You consciously do not...
No, MJ Akbar is also.
No, MJ Akbar is from Bihar, again Rajya Sabha. But please understand, 13% of the population, you don't want to give them political representation. 14%. Where is the reach out? I want to know what is it that can be done from people like you to ensure that there is some kind of a dialogue. Instead, you are insistent on a Ram temple to be built on the very spot that you believe Ram was born. You have converted a property dispute. I'm sorry to call it a property dispute.
No, Rajdeep, it's a title dispute.
Chalo, title dispute, title dispute into an article of faith. That I believe that Ram was born here and therefore the mandir yahi banayenge. How are you bridging the divide with him? You want him to reach out to you. You will not reach out to him. How will that work? Tali do haath se bajti hai.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that whenever, in response to, actually he was debating Narendra Modi, not me, so...
I am thankful to you, sir.
No, are you saying it?
No, we are seeing a signs of change in Mr. Swami. He's slowly disassociating from Mr. Modi.
No, but go ahead.
See,
What is your reach out to him?
well, reach out to him is that if he agrees to certain basic principles which are in the Constitution, and let him not quote fundamental rights of Article 25, because Article 25, if I quote it, he'll be in trouble.
I have the habit of being in trouble. When I speak, I'm in trouble. When I stand, I'm in trouble. When I sleep, I'm in trouble. My identity is trouble, so please go ahead.
Okay.
No, let
One
him
more
speak.
trouble. Now, Article 25 says you have fundamental right to practice religion the way you want.
Yes.
Subject to, that party forgets, restrictions on morality, health, and public order. So there is no absolute fundamental right to religion in our constitution. Second, whenever Hindus are confronted with a out-of-date practice, now he's quoting Mitakshara and so on. See, he doesn't know that our theology, we have something called Shruti, which is like Vedas. That's revealed knowledge. And that's all philosophy. And then there is conduct, Shastras. We call them as Shastras. So Manu Shastra, after that Yajnavalkya Shastra, Mitak Shastra. These Shastras can be amended according to our theology. And today our Shastra is the Constitution of India. And we will follow it. Now, when the Hindus are confronted with a malpractice or a practice which is out of date, we immediately respond and get it corrected. Take, for instance, this Sabarimala Institute thing, the refusal to allow women, Hindu women, to enter the sanctum sanctorum. Entire Hindu society came together, and today it is being allowed. So, same thing with Sati earlier. And when Raja Ram Mohan Roy took the courageous stand, the British allowed it. But he said, no, Hindu society will not allow it. If he can tell me any other malpractice or bad practice in Hindu, I'll be happy to sit with him and then see whether he's usual demagoguery or he's got facts really. And then I will get it addressed.
Would you, for example, if he has...
Mr. Swami, Rajdeep, you are a
Mr.
moderator, you're not a questioner, leave me. Mr. Swami, what about Hindu Undivided Family Act? Why, isn't that a violation of right to equality? Secondly, Mr. Swami, you talk about 25, the exceptions. What about Article 29, protection of culture? What about
Nothing
the
is
what about
protected.
what about the rights to Nagas and Misos? Mr. Swami, there are so many examples I can give you that you will not be able to answer. Please, I'm telling you.
Let me answer specifically. Suppose he agrees to a dialogue on triple talaq. Would you agree to a dialogue to revise Hindu Property Act? Do you believe that the
100%.
100%?
Why only this? I will sit with him and argue with him on every malpractice he says is taking place in Hindu
The day he
society.
becomes the finance minister, we'll talk about it. Not now.
No. But that is, the point I'm coming at is you very interestingly said that you believe in a sense that your book today is the Constitution. Your book is not the Gita.
No.
No, 1 minute. 1 minute. No, 1 minute.
Then
No,
you're
one
not a
minute.
Hindu.
No, 1 minute.
You shouldn't even say that.
No, 1 minute.
I am talking about
Shastra.
Shastra. Gita is not a Shastra. Gita is part of our the spiritual heritage which cannot be amended.
Sir, it is part of our
it is
spiritual...
called Shruti.
Sir, I am saying in terms of the fact that we have all as Indian citizens, the Constitution in a sense, if I may be allowed to use the word, is like a holy grail today. We go by the Constitution.
Yes.
You yourself are a
Yes,
lawyer.
absolutely.
In the Constitution, please tell me where it says that a place of worship has to be demolished because in 1526 it was demolished by Muslim invaders and a Hindu temple existed on the spot, and therefore now 450 years later, to avenge that defeat, as you call it, or the humiliation of I must now build a temple. Please tell me where in the Indian Constitution it is, and if it is not there, do you agree that what happened on December 6, 1992 was fundamentally an unconstitutional act? Yes or no?
See, I think you have been moving in the ranks of these fanatics and not with me. Because I'll tell you why. I have never argued this. I am the principal, now almost the designated spokesman of the Vishuddha Parishad in the Supreme Court. I have not argued this. What have I argued? He talks about the title. The Allahabad High Court judge, including the Muslim judge, has rejected it. They have come on appeal.
Now,
What is their claim to title? They say we have adverse possession. Under our law, if you, what else? You go and read the thing. I'm reading it every day.
I've read
sir.
the 10,000 worded judgment, Mr.
Yeah.
Swami. Not only
And
I read.
It
No.
is based on adverse possession and nothing else.
No.
And
No.
what else is it? Now, the Archaeological Survey of India has found, after excavation on the direction of the Supreme Court to the Allahabad High Court to find out, they have found after extensive modern, and there was a Muslim archaeologist who was the chief, the person who was actually doing the operation, called Muhammad from Kerala. He has written a book also on it. They went and found out that there was an existing temple below the Babri Masjid, wherever Babri Masjid stood. Now there is no Babri Masjid, there is a makeshift temple there where some worship is going on. Now, once there was an existing temple, in the Supreme Court Farooqi judgment, constitutional bench judgment, the government of that day, namely Narasimha Rao's government, filed an affidavit that if it ever comes out, it is ever proved that there was an existing temple before the masjid, which is of course not in dispute at all. That means that we must hand over the land to the Hindus. Now, we believe that Ram was born there. Now you say just because you believe, well, what about where Christ was born? Does anybody know where Christ was born? They say it was born in some part of Israel. Why? Because the wife or mother of the king of Italy, there also Italy comes, don't mind. The wife or mother of Italy had a dream that that particular spot is where Christ was born. On that belief, even the Israelis are compelled to regard that as the birthplace of Christ. After all, faith is even in the criminal
So
court.
faith is above law.
Faith is not above the law, it's part of the law. Please
No,
read out.
no,
Please read section.
no,
No,
no.
wait a minute. Don't say no in the middle. I didn't,
Mr. Swami,
I
can
didn't
I-
interrupt
public
you.
order?
I didn't.
Public order
I am
is
coming to public
exception.
order. I am coming to public order. Section 295 of the IPC says that faith is if a group of people believe it to be so, and that is paramount. That is exactly what I argued for the Ram Setu in the Supreme Court and won the case. Today, Ram Setu cannot be demolished because we believe that
You
was
made your
built by
point.
Ram.
Now, can I remind?
Is faith
can I,
above
no,
law?
No, no, no.
Is faith above law?
Rajiv, it's no. Can I remind Mr. Swami that it was same Mr. Subramanian Swami in 1992 who used the choicest of Shakespearean English at his disposal to condemn BJP, Advani and everyone. He had come to Hyderabad and used the most strongest words you can ever find. And there were some unparliamentary words also in that speech which he gave in Hyderabad. Secondly, Mr. Swami.
He's like a Hindu god. He goes through various avatars.
No, there is only one God
He's like
now.
Vishnu. who goes through various avatars.
Rajdeep, in a lighter vein, Ram Mandir will be decided, Babri Masjid will be decided by Supreme Court. But definitely, very soon, we are going to see a Narendra Modi Mandir coming up everywhere in India. Now, the third point is, our law is different. A law does not talk about faith. It talks about evidence, the title. See, it was a title dispute. That judgment was wrong in law because they made it a partition suit. Now, how can that happen? Fourthly, he says that Christ, some dream he said. How did on 23rd, 24th December, the idols of Ram came up in the masjid? How did it come? Mr. Advani said that they came from the ground. Sir, I don't know how it came from the ground. This is a great logic which has been used, and the question is, demolition is a criminal act, and those people who have done that act should be punished. And why are they sitting in cabinet and talking about cleaning Ganga? These were the same people when the domes were coming down were jumping on older people and embracing them, offering them sweet. No, where is rule of law?
I'll answer you.
Quickly respond.
And your last point.
No.
See, Darzi, please, अब बीच में मत आओ. दो लोग बड़े लोग बात करें.
अरे वाह.
So 295, 153 hai. Why isn't your government accepting to take away all those things? You wanted 153 to go away, 295 to go away. No, your own government says the case should be continued on you.
No, not anymore. Not anymore.
You went to court.
Please, you're always.
Let you respond. Quickly respond, then I want to ask you all one final issue.
His weakest point is facts, you see. That it comes in his way.
Respond, sir.
Now, I would say, first of all, he was debating Advani, so I'm not concerned with that. I am only saying this, that in every Muslim majority country, including Pakistan, masjids can be demolished for a public purpose like building a road, building apartment buildings. They, in Saudi Arabia, even demolished a masjid where Muhammad used to pray, because masjid is considered as a prayer hall for reading namaz. It can be located anywhere, and I'll be happy to tell my government, please build a Babri Masjid across Saryu River, a grand one, which is the best in the world, but not in Ram Janmabhoomi. Please read that for the Ram temple.
Okay, I
have to answer. The first point is, what the hell have I got to do with Saudi Arab, Pakistan, Iran? I rejected two-nation theory of Jinnah. I rejected it. I said, to hell with you. You go away. This is my country. This is my India. The graveyards of Muslim graveyards of India are an example of my honesty and my patriotism. Secondly, even if what he's saying is true, can anyone be allowed to go and demolish India Habitat Center because the mob wants it?
That's not the issue.
How can this country be run on
That's
mob
not
rules?
the issue in the Supreme Court.
Tomorrow you might say some God was born here, I'll demolish this place.
Can I therefore?
No, can this country be run on anarchy? Can this country be run on majority faith views? No, Mr. Swami. This country has people who worship Ram, Ravana, Allah, Jesus, Ambedkar, and people who don't believe in religion also. Your problem is you want us to accept Ram as a national icon, which I reject.
Okay, I'm going to ask therefore this audience one simple question. I want to do an audience poll and then get you to respond. What if I told this audience that in 2016, we're entering the 70th year of independence, that the spot which is the disputed site should be converted, as I have believed for a very long time, into a hospital for the poor of this country. Where any Indian, one minute, where any Indian, Hindu, Muslim, any community would be, 1 minute madam, 1 minute. How many of you would agree? How many of you would say yes? Okay, hold on. That is almost as many as, and since I don't have a WhatsApp since I can't do a WhatsApp poll of my own on my own site, so I can't even say 92% are saying that there should be a hospital. But as many as I hear, clearly let me put it this way, Dr. Swami and Mr. Owaisi, there is a younger India which perhaps today really believes, or maybe I believe I represent that younger India.
I disagree with
Sir,
you.
just a minute.
I disagree. No,
Just
if
a
that
minute.
is the
No, no.
Rajdeep, if
Sir, I
that
will
is
let
the
you
case,
respond.
tomorrow you will tell me forget Godse.
No, no, 1
Tomorrow
minute.
you will tell me forget 84,
Mr. Owaisi, you've not
84
even heard my
genocide.
question.
No, Rajdeep.
No, Mr. Owaisi, you must
the
listen
people who
now.
have done this criminal act should be punished.
That's another matter.
The courts should decide, and the judgment would be accepted by me.
I want
I am
to...
telling you, the Muslims
Sir,
of India have said whatever the Supreme Court decides, will accept.
You will accept that.
Will the Hindutva groups accept it?
No, 1 minute. Are you telling me tomorrow, as a result of the day-to-day hearing that Dr. Swami wants, if tomorrow the Supreme Court says a Ram temple should be built on the site, you will accept it?
As an Indian, I am duty bound to accept judicial pronouncements, judgments, and I'll accept it.
Dr. Swami, on the other hand, if I were to say to you that a younger India perhaps wants a hospital or a school, something in a state like Uttar Pradesh, a state which suffers on the worst social indices, why do you believe this is the land, sir, of the greatest soul of this country was Mahatma Gandhi, right?
And he was a great Ram Bhakta.
He was, but the same Ram Bhakta called Mahatma Gandhi did not call ever for bloodshed in the name of a temple or a mosque.
Yeah, I also...
The fact is that the killers of Mahatma Gandhi are the ones who called for a temple and a mosque. That is the reality, sir. That is the reality,
That's a
sir.
canard that you should not... you should have a separate debate and I'll demolish you on that.
Why?
On this thing that those who killed Mahatma Gandhi were the ones who are asking for temple today.
Many of them are.
What do you mean by many now? You're moderating.
No. The groups are.
Which groups? Name them. Don't be a coward.
Chalo, I will. Nathuram Godse. Nathuram Godse belonged to the Hindu Mahasabha.
Yes.
Nathuram Godse belonged to the Hindu Mahasabha, a group which was very much part of the movement to ensure that the temple was built.
I don't care for Hindu Mahasabha. I've got nothing to do with them.
Sir, this is a
court.
Okay,
And
so like Asauddin Owaisi has said today,
Yes.
he says if the court decides that a Ram temple should be built, he will accept that verdict
Yes.
of the highest court.
Yes.
Will you also accept
I
if the
will
court decides that there should be status quo?
I am...
No, masjid. A masjid was
Or a
wrong.
masjid should be built or a status quo. Will you accept it?
I will accept anything the Supreme Court decides. I'm not Arun Jaitley.
Do you want to clarify that? Are you saying that Arun Jaitley does not follow the laws of the Supreme Court?
What is he doing on the NJAC?
No, Rajdeep.
What is he doing?
In the NJAC?
Rajdeep.
Who is the block? He is the block.
Mr. Swami would agree with me that in WikiLeaks it was shown Mr. Arun Jaitley had said that Hindutva was only for vote bank.
Yes.
You agree with that?
He said
Yes.
it. I know it's in the WikiLeaks. Whether he said it or not, I don't know. But
let me, sir, let me ask you at the very conclusion of this. Rather than audience question, which will now, as we conclude this debate, sir, the role of religion in politics.
Yes.
Should people be using these emotive religious issues to garner votes? Let's be clear, sir. These have been vote-catching gimmicks. In the 1990s, it enabled the BJP to emerge as a major national player. Today, in 2016, you don't need it. Today, demonetization, you believe, will get you votes, not Ram Temple. You have moved away from that. You yourself in the past have complained that people, once they enter power, forget these issues. But do you believe that in a plural society like ours, religion should play the kind of role it does when appealing for votes? Should I be appealing for votes in the name of Ram, or should I be appealing for votes in the name of roti?
No,
I not appeal for the... Tell me you can provide me roti, I'll vote for you. Tell me you'll build me a Ram temple, I don't want to vote for you.
We have never campaigned, even including the last election, on building a Ram temple.
You campaigned in the 1990s because it suited you then.
Leave aside 1990s. I am saying that today, you ask me today, the last election we campaigned on three things: the leadership of Narendra Modi, Hindutva, and also fighting corruption. These are the three things. Two, This question all the time you journalists pose about development being the key factor.
Yes.
Let me tell you, Narasimha Rao did nothing but development and superb development, and he lost. Mr. Atal Bihari talked about India shining through development. He lost. So did Rajiv Gandhi, who produced the highest industrial growth in this country, in the history of this country. He lost. Morarji Desai, who brought down prices as never before, he lost. Development alone is necessary, but it is not sufficient. For sufficiency, you need emotion, and that comes out of cultural values.
Emotion is fine, but destruction of constitution is not fine. You want to repeat 6 December 1992. Let me give you an example of an app of Narendra Modi which carries sayings of Narendra Modi. You can send wishes on Christmas. Now imagine a Christian who wants to send a Christmas wish to soldier on the border. Mr. Modi app says that the judgment on Ram Mandir is necessary for belief and to create a self-esteem. Can the Prime Minister still stick to that quote of his and use it in his app when the Supreme Court has given a stay? And please tell me, if Mr. Modi talks about employment, 5% is unemployment rate. What? Achhe din aayenge abhi. 2.5 years have come, sir. Achhe din aaye nahi rahe.
I know.
No, because you are representing Mr. Modi.
I am.
You are part of his Modi.
Yesterday you said I was a rebel.
No, you are part of his Modi, and there's no employment.
Can I ask you
70%.
Sir, I have 1 minute left. I'm going to ask both. I'm going to ask both of
Rajdeep,
you.
Emotions have to be within the law. Emotions cannot break law. And also, please remember, so long Supreme Court does not decide that Hindutva judgment, people will definitely use religion. You cannot stop me. I will ask name. He will ask name, not in the name of Modi, but in the name of Hindutva. I will ask votes in the name of Islam, but for Muslim. That judgment must go. That is the biggest bane to our code of conduct.
Okay, I'm going to ask you therefore, in conclusion, 30 seconds each.
Yes.
What is your definition of secularism as you see it today? What is your definition, Dr. Swami, of a secular India? 30 seconds.
That secularism means that in all secular activities we will be secular. Which means that a person can be President of India, Prime Minister of India, members of Parliament, irrespective of any religion. In his job, it will not be discriminated. These are all secular activities. But we are a country which is a continuing civilization, a fact today accepted by UNESCO, and that the 80% of the population is Hindu. This Hindu requires great deal of modernization and a renaissance, and the divisions that have been there of caste and region and language, they have to go. We all must emerge as one Hindu society.
Okay.
And that is what you people misunderstand as religious-driven politics.
Let me give you the final word. Your definition of what you believe is a secular Indian republic.
For me, secularism means that this country has always celebrated every religion. This country has even celebrated people who do not believe in God. And secularism does not mean that you talk about secularism and then the Prime Minister says Jai Shri Ram. Secularism does not mean that you believe in secularism and then you say I'll construct Ram Mandir through legislation.
He's still debating.
Secularism does not mean that a man is killed in the name of cow and the accused dies and the union minister goes and offers condolences. Secularism does not mean that you destroy livelihood of people in one go. That Mr. Modi now is the Sultan of Delhi and he has issued 179 farmans as of now. God knows what's going to happen tomorrow. That is not secularism, that is anarchy.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what is possible though is for Dr. Swami and Asauddin Owaisi perhaps to carry forward this debate to the Supreme Court. I think both of you have agreed on this program. You will accept whatever the Supreme Court decides on a Ram temple. And the Constitution of India in that sense is supreme. And in my definition of secularism, that Constitution is my holy book. For you it's the Quran, for you it's the Gita.
No,
Rajdeep.
Rajdeep, I am a Muslim. For me, Quran is very important, but as an Indian, Constitution is very important to me.
Great.
Yeah, that's correct. That's the correct position.
Wow.
But not Manu's theory, Mr. Swami.
Okay,
That's
so
okay.
1 minute.
I'm
So
not applying it to
we
you.
managed to reach some kind of an agreement and accept it.
No,
that
no.
We will all work under the umbrella.
I
of
have always said he's a patriot and I'm a nationalist. There's a difference between the two.
But I'm still anti-national. I'm a
You know-
patriot but anti-national.
Do you know what my worry with that is? A nationalism is someone who accepts his country right or wrong. A patriot is someone who accepts his country when it's right and points out when it's wrong. That's the difference between a patriot and a nationalist. I am therefore happy, Mr. Swami, to be a patriot. I don't know whether you want to be patriots or nationalists.
No, I want to be
am happy
nationalist.
to be a patriot, but more importantly, I want to be a citizen first, which is why I still want a hospital to be built on that side.
Rajdeep, you and Mr. Swami are holding intellectual property rights on patriotism and nationalism.
I
So,
hold,
thank you.
I hold no such rights. No one has a monopoly on patriotism or nationalism. Let's all be Indian citizens and preserve the multi-religious character of this society. There is no other country greater than India because there is no other country as diverse as India.
is true.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please give a big hand to Dr. Swami and our South Innovation.